Hi friends, I'm Gina. I am a wife and mother of two. Welcome to my channel full of gray stitches, and this is podcast episode 2. And I just wanted to share with you what I've been working on this last week. It's been a little bit of changes, but not a whole lot of movement with all of my projects. I kind of focus mostly on that honey bunny project. But let's go ahead and get started. Why don't you go ahead and grab your crochet or your knitting or whatever you're working on, a cup of tea, and come and join me while I share with you what I've been working on. So the first project is the honey bunny. And as you can see now we have we have legs. We have little arms, 2 arms, and 2 ears. So the bunny is almost finished. Like, this will be in next week's finished objects portion of the podcast. So I'm excited because it's getting close to Easter, and I really just wanted to get this done. So that's pretty much what I focused on this week. Mostly is this, and like I said in my previous episode, I'm using the Bernat blanket yarn. It's a 6-weight bulky yarn, and I'm using two different hooks. The pattern calls for two different hooks, 7mm and 8mm, and I'll link I'll put a link down in the description box below with the pattern. Where you can go. It's a pattern by Mama Made Minis, and the colorway of the yarn is called Birch. So it's pretty good. It's a pretty easy overall project. It's just kind of working in sections and little pieces, and then you attach everything and finish it up at the end. And yeah, it's been really fun, and I'm excited to put this in my daughter's Easter basket. Now, if you want, I can actually put a link to last week's episode in the description as well, so you can go back and see that podcast, and I actually will show the other one that I made for my son George, and his is in the colorway Almond, and it's also the Bernat blanket. So they'll both get those in their Easter baskets, and I'm super excited about it. I don't have a whole lot to show in the other projects. I did work some more on my Dainty Daisy granny squares, but I didn't work on them as much, so I haven't really made a lot of movement with these. And like I said in my previous podcast episode, these are crocheted with Hobby Lobby's. I love this yarn. It's 100% acrylic yarn. The colorway is the pink is rosy pink. Here, I'll get it out again. Rosy pink, like a yellow and white. So you can see those too. But now that my honey bunny is kind of being wrapped up, I'll be able to get some more traction on this project. And I have this really cute bag that I got from my mother-in-law. That's a nice project bag. And so my next one is, again, the granny squares, and I have not been able to have as much traction on this one this week either, due to my focus being on that little honey bunny. But I will give you a brief overview, and you can see this one and the Dainty Daisy one, where I discuss it more in detail in my last podcast episode. But this is just a traditional granny square, and this is what it will look like when I add the joining yarn. So my goal for this one, I think I have it calculated to have 130 squares. When they're all done, 130 of these to then join together to make a blanket. And I think it's a row going 10 across by 13 squares tall. So that's kind of where I got 130. And that would give me a decent size Afghan. Like I think it was about 48 inches wide by 60 inches in length. So I think that's a nice size blanket. And this is a nice cotton. This is Yarn Bees Sugar Wheel Cotton that I also acquired from Hobby Lobby. And it's 100% cotton. It's a size 3 lightweight yarn. And I'm crocheting these with a 4mm hook. On Saturdays, I work on my temperature blankets, and that's the next project I will share with you. So this week, we had temperatures in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So every day I record the daily high of temperature, and then at the end of the week on Saturdays, I compile that, and every day is a row, and each color signifies a temperature. So you can see towards the top, these are the ones that I've worked on this week. There's 7 rows. I think we started with this Arctic ice, I believe was but we had some warmer days too, so days in the 60s where you can see that I've used that spa color, Arctic ice, and then soft blue. Arctic ice is for 50s, and Arctic blue is for 40s. So we've had I would say the majority I've had to, I would say the majority of temperature ranges that I've used is in the 40s, and because I've already run out of the soft blue, which is the color I designated for 40s. So you can see that that's been a very, very, very much used colorway. So I had to go back and get more because I ran out. But this will be nice and big. Actually, it will be 365 rows. Oh, one thing I didn't mention in my last episode about this is that this is the linen stitch, or some people call it the moss stitch, but it allows for a very compact stitch and fabric. So I was worried that other kind of stitches are maybe create a bigger space, a bigger blanket overall when you add 365 rows. So that's why I went with the linen stitch. I know it's kind of a popular one for temperature blankets, just because of that. It's more compact. It doesn't create a large space. And I know Crochet with Tiffany Hansen, she's actually doing a temperature blanket with chunky yarn, and with hers, she's doing every row is a week, and I think it's the weekly low and the weekly high for that week. So it's 2 rows per week. So, and every month is a different stitch. So you get a temperature blanket and a sampler blanket. And I did consider doing that. Maybe next year I'll do that. Since this was my first time, I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew. Being a mom with 2 small children, I just don't have like that much time to dedicate to too many different projects. So that's it for my works in progress. And I'd actually like to share with you one project that I have finished, and it was actually finished a while ago. And then when I went back and watched the video from last week, my first podcast, I didn't include it in my finished objects. So I will share that with you too. So for my finished object, it's the Gardenia Tote, and it's a fun, like, tote bag. I'm actually ready to whip it out now since we're getting into the spring and warmer days. It's a really fun market bag, and it has kind of a petal detail. So it's tiny little flowers. I don't know if you can see that, but it's in this beautiful lavender color, and the yarn is Lion Brand's Color Theory in Provence colorway. And I used 3 skeins to make the bag. It's a size 3 weight yarn, and I used a 4mm hook. But it's really cute, and you can just use it for whatever. It's very lightweight, and it's just a little bit different than your just standard market bag that's more of like a fishnet. So it has some of that fishnet detailing that's typical of a market bag, but then the designer brought in more of a floral motif, which I like. I'm all about florals. So I'd actually like to share with you an acquisition that I got this week. Some yarn from Joann. I went there the other day, and I am excited about this. This is the Mandala, Lion Brand Mandala. Look at how pretty. It's really soft. I really like this. It's a 100% acrylic, size 4, medium weight yarn. It's 344 yards per skein, and the colorway is Felicity. But I thought this might be nice as a shawl. And I have a Just Feel festive shawl pattern that I bought a couple months ago that's been sitting in my my folder. I have a folder online of crochet patterns that I keep all of my crochet patterns that I'm either working on or that I want to work on, or past projects as well. I kind of just keep that as a storage area for all of my crochet patterns. But this is the colorway Felicity, and I think that this would be a really pretty shawl. So I think that might be one of my next projects that I start working on. And I got 4 skeins because I think that should be plenty. That pattern is actually calls for one size 1 weight yarn, but held double. And when you hold size 1 weight double, it actually becomes a size 3 DK. And this is a size 4. So I'm just gonna have to tweak a little bit I'm gonna just test my gauge, make a gauge swatch, and just kind of see how I need to adjust things to, to work well with this pattern. But it's the Just Feel festive shawl, and I'll put a link to that pattern as well, because that's a pattern that I'll probably start working on in the future. So what have you been working on? Are you working on something with crochet or with knitting? I'd love to hear about it. Please share with me what you're working on in the comments. I just think it'd be so much fun to kind of share with each other. What are you doing? Share ideas. And if you have any questions too, just feel free to put those questions in the comments, and I'd love to include some of your comments and questions in a future video, maybe start a question and answer segment of this podcast. That's it, my friends. That's it for today's episode. It was a little bit shorter this time, but next week I'll have more to share, and especially getting that bunny and everything ready to go. But thank you so much again for joining. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and also consider subscribing to my channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye.